Hello and welcome. I'm Patrick Curtis, your host and chief monkey, and this is the Wall Street Oasis Podcast. Join me as I talk to some of the community's most successful and inspirational members to gain valuable insight into different career paths and life in general. Let's get to it. In this episode, Howie shares his story as an immigrant moving to the United States when he was just 15 years old. Learn how he picked up English so fast, how he did so well in high school, how he became the first member of his family to attend college, how a back office internship at a bank opened his eyes to investment banking, and how he ended up landing that first investment banking internship. We hear about how he converted the internship into a full-time offer and his risky approach that paid off during private equity recruiting. Enjoy. Okay, Howie, thanks so much for joining the Wall Street Oasis podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So it'd be awesome if you could just give the listeners a short summary of your bio.
Yeah, of course, happy to. So I was born and raised in Southeast Asia. I immigrated to the States with my family when I was in high school. I went to college in the Rocky Mountain area and did a variety of different internships in college. I like to say that I accidentally discovered investment banking and then decided that it would be a good job, at least out of college. So after that, successfully landed investment banking, an investment banking job, and then spent more than a year there. And now I'm transitioning to a PE associate role at the upper middle market firm.
Very cool. Perfect. So let's start all the way back at even before you moved to the States. What was the thought process? Were your parents like, hey, why move to the States? What was the thought process? Obviously, choosing school, you didn't have target school versus non-target on your mind probably when you were, I don't know, what was it, 18 years old? Tell me a little bit
15.
About 15. Yeah, so that's when you moved. So tell me what did you move out to the kind of Midwest area, Rocky Mountains, or did you, did they settle there? Is that, for a certain reason? I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, it was more of a family reunion type of immigration. So, just my parents decided to move to the States to, just join my family that were already or are still already here in the Rocky Mountain area. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when I first moved, obviously I didn't get a choice of like which state I want to move to. It was totally up to my parents and my family. And so it's just, by luck, I like to say it, I got landed to a Rocky Mountain state and went to high school there, public high school, also went to public college as well. And I think my thought process there for the college was, really, I am first person in my family to go to college. And my parents didn't really go to college either. So it was a lot of like navigating the college process, higher education on my own, and definitely got lucky to be able to just find a lot of mentors when I was in high school. And they helped me with, the college application process. And then at that point, I didn't really know about like the Ivy League. Obviously, didn't know about like the target, non-target schools, anything like that.
Even in your junior like high school year, you didn't know about this?
Yeah, I didn't know. I knew about like Harvard and Yale. Their names are internationally recognized.
Yeah,
but not like the Penn or Wharton or like the NYU schools of the world at all. So.
Because you did pretty well in high school, right? Like you were a top student and stuff. And was English tell me about that. Was English a second language?
Yeah, English was my second language. I didn't speak much when I first got here. I was able to introduce myself and say what my name is, but was not able to have a conversation, anything like that.
And that's at 15 years old.
Yeah, 15.
Come 16. A long way.
Yeah. So got really lucky there, and I got paired up with some excellent English as second language teachers, mm-hmm. Who I'm still in touch with until today. They taught me like my very first English words, and and that's kind of really got the momentum going.
Very cool. And so, how were you able to do so well in high school, with English as a second language?
Yeah, I think I just. I realized. I thought
Were you studying all night?
Yeah, I did put in a lot of hours just studying like new English words. And like I remember I would put like stickies of new English words on like my fridge or like on my desk, anything like that. And I made a promise to myself that I would at least learn 5 new English words every day. I did that for 6 months or so. And yeah, I mean, with a bit of luck as well, like I said, I have a lot of support in not only from my parents, but also from my high school teachers. And that got me going. And yeah, and when it came to college application time, I just thought on, only son in the family as well. And
you what? Sorry, what with the family?
I'm the only son in the family.
Only son, yeah. What did your parents do when they came here?
Yeah, so my mom, she's a tailor. So she helps, just making like designing clothing for the community.
Okay, so fast forward, you kind of start applying to colleges. Was it just one college? You applied to a bunch of colleges. What was the thought process? Was it automatic entry because you did well in high school, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I applied to the Harvard and Yale, the world, and got a couple of interviews. Ultimately decided that the cost would be a lot to attend those colleges. And at the time, by the time I applied to college, I had only been to the state for about maybe more than a year. So my application was still treated as an international student. So I would be paying, like $100,000 a year just to attend those school, right? So not really something that my family could afford at the time, not even until now.
I didn't know that. So when you apply, you have to be in the States for how many years typically before?
5 years to be treated as a resident. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. 5 years. Okay. So you're applying to schools, you're thinking cost matters. Do these public universities charge as much for international or more for international as well?
More for international as well.
So, but just not as expensive, obviously, as the
Yeah.
How much were you paying per year?
So yeah, for my college, I actually got enough scholarships to go there for free.
Nice.
Yeah, so like not one big full ride scholarship. I got like multiple ones that added up, and that helped with the cost of attending.
Very cool. And so tell me a little bit about, why did you start going to the business school there? When was finance on the mind, and how did you accidentally learn about investment banking? Hopefully, I wonder if it's Wall Street Oasis, maybe not. Yeah, tell me a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah, no, Wall Street Oasis definitely made an appearance when I got to my sophomore junior year. But yeah, I think the reason why I decided to study finance or business in college is, I think, coming from my original country, we have a different economic system. And I've always been curious about like how the economic system, like the market works in the U.S. Right? I didn't even know that like one company could acquire another company when I got here. Right? That was like literally a foreign concept to me.
Yeah.
And the different economic systems, I've always been fascinated about that, and just decided to study that subject just a point of interest. And obviously, as an immigrant, my parents would not let me just study one major. So I decided to. So my economics was my top choice, and decided to pick up finance as well, just because. And so yeah, I started in college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. For a while, I thought I would want to go to law school one day, because I did debate in high school. And then probably saw too many legal dramas, like movies. So it said, okay, maybe I'll look into law school.
Yeah.
And so I spent a summer working at like an investment bank in the back office, doing like legal work, compliance work for them. And that was when I discovered, okay, I don't want to go to law school, become a lawyer, because I met a lot of unhappy lawyers at the firm.
Yeah.
And also that's how I discovered like investment banking as well. Because,
just being around it, or being near.
Yeah, just being around them. And then my role was to like, preparing like paperwork and documents for the investment bankers.
So that legal internship, kind of back office internship, that was what, sophomore summer?
That was like freshman.
That was freshman summer. Oh, that's really good. So how did you even get that? I mean, it sounds like, was the office close by, that type of thing?
Yeah, office close by. The office was literally just like maybe like 10 minutes drive away from campus.
A freshman summer internship is super hard to come by. So how should all other freshmen go about it? Did you talk to people? How did you even land it?
Yeah, so they recruited pretty heavily on campus. So they went to, they went to our classes, like introduce themselves, and like they have like on-campus recruiting events and things like that. So yeah, their presence, they make sure their presence are known.
Yeah, and so did you have to interview for it?
Yeah, I did. I did.
And how was that? I'm sure it was very much like, hey, why? Hey,
Yeah, it was pretty. I was. I don't. I mean, looking back now, I think I definitely showed up unprepared.
yeah,
And I mean, they asked me why I want to do this, and I just thought, oh, okay, I like the brand name, and I'm a hard worker. I'm going to work hard, and yeah,
yeah.
I think that
That's
was like
probably
my
all you have
whole
to say
pitch
to
to
get
them.
it. It's probably all you have to say to get a freshman summer internship. Well, maybe not any, maybe not nowadays, but so, okay. But maybe for back office, it's a little bit easier. They were just looking for people to kind of that work hard, like you said, and just be
Yeah,
diligent. So you come in there, you say, okay, legal's not for me. Oh, what's this investment banking thing? And then you hear it's hard to get into. Oh, you want it even more now. So going into sophomore year, at least it's freshman summer, you learn about it. You
yeah.
go sophomore year, what's your plan? What do you do differently? You're now kind of doing finance major and economics, but what else? What else are you doing?
Yeah. So that's, after the freshman internship, I realized that, okay, this is something I want to seriously look into.
Yeah.
And that's when I also realized I had a rude awakening that my school is not really, under the radar for a lot of investment banks. So I started reaching out to, a couple of senior guys or alums who had successfully landed investment banking jobs from my school. And there was, in our best year, we would land maybe like 5 people in investment banking, right?
From a
Across
pretty
the
big
US.
class, right?
Yeah. We had, maybe like 1,000 people in the business school every year. And we would land like 5.
Yeah.
And, 4.5 of them would be in San Francisco or California, Yeah, the one other person would be like in New York or something like that. So I reached out to them, and to my school's credit too, and to their credit, they, the majority of them responded and was really willing to help me and, just show me what they did to get the internship offer to start out. And
Did they tell you just network like crazy?
Just network like crazy, treat it like a full-time job in addition to your school load.
Yeah.
So I did that. So I just made a plan. I would talk to at least, 3 or 4 new people every week.
Every week. So how many people did you have to reach out to get 3 to 4 people on the phone every week?
Oh, I think by the time I got an offer, the investment banking offer, I think I looked back into the number. I think my response rate was about pretty high, actually, 30%. Roughly.
Meaning 30% of the people that you reached out to responded?
Yeah,
so
responded.
I assume you're using mostly LinkedIn for this?
Yeah, LinkedIn, alumni network,
Handshake,
directory, handshake, whatever I can get my hands on.
Yeah, and so if you're getting a 30% response rate, you're only having to email about 10 people a week?
Yeah. So
that's great. And so was that including follow-ups? Like when you said, hey, you'd reach out, try to make a connection, was it over? Would you try to get their emails and bring it to email and then do like a follow-up a week later if they hadn't responded?
Yeah, exactly. So like cold email them, like, a lot of times I would reach their secretary or like, their, the whoever they were helping them with like.
What did you say in the email? Do you remember like the basics just to give people some guidance? Because that 30% response rate is super high.
Yeah. And I think by the end, or by the time I got an internship, I looked back, I talked to maybe 80 people in total.
Wow. You got on the phone with 80 people.
Yeah.
And that's from beginning of sophomore year till when?
To end of sophomore year. That's when I got my internship because they recruited pretty early that year, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone listening, that means he emailed probably about 800 people. No, more like, what did that be? 240, around 250 people.
Yeah.
That's a crazy high close rate to actually talking to that many people. So I'd love to hear what you did, because usually I tell people to expect 5 to 10% max. And that's with a good follow-up.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, and I want to give a lot of credits to the people that respond as well. I think in my message first, if they have any sort of connections with me, if I went to, my school or went to another school in the area that is, kind of a finance juggernaut, if you will. So, our neighborhood school, our rival school has a lot of good placements in investment banking.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to them as well, right? Just say, hey, I'm also a kid from that area. Would you talk to me on the phone?
Very smart. So you didn't just limit yourself to your own alum. You looked at regional kind of affiliation as well. You're trying to find any sort of connection to help increase your alumni base. We'll call it weak alumni.
Yeah. So it's like
that's why.
Yeah.
That's why
so
you're
the regional. Yeah. And also, I think, people appreciated my background, coming from different countries and immigrant, learning the language and, trying to navigate this whole recruiting process as well. So
were you saying that in the initial email? Were you saying, hey, I just came here. I came to the States when I was 15 years old and this is I just learned about investment banking last summer.
Yeah.
I worked at XYZ bulge bracket in the operations and that's what I heard.
Yeah,
cool. So you
exactly.
just a couple lines, boom, boom, boom. It just looked impressive. You had a high GPA.
Yeah, I did. And I think, a lot of people responded to that, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, totally 100% credits to them. So
tell me a little bit about just, did you attach the resume or not in the first email?
No, I didn't attach my resume. That would, yeah, I feel like it would be a little bit too pushy. Yeah, too pushy for sure. Yeah.
But then I'm sure a lot of them respond to say, hey, send your resume.
Yeah. And also I flew myself to different cities a couple of times as well on my own money, just to like grab coffee with them.
That's amazing. So tell me about that. Tell me about so were you using something like Boomerang or Write Inbox for your emails to keep on top of it, or a spreadsheet? What did you use?
A spreadsheet. Yeah. Like Google.
And then you'd say like at the initial date you reached out and then you had like an alert on it or some sort of conditional formatting that would pop up.
Yeah, exactly.
Which one, a conditional format?
Yeah. But if it's more than 2 weeks from the time I heard from them,
would turn red.
Turn red, exactly. That's the formatting I did.
Okay, and then you'd reach out again. So you can do that, or what I often suggest is people use something called Write Inbox or like a Boomerang in Gmail. Now it's so easy. You just put a reminder 2 weeks if they haven't responded, and it pops right up at the top of your inbox. Super easy nowadays.
Yeah.
And that allows you to kind of avoid, you can take notes right in it as well. It allows you to kind of have to build some massive spreadsheet. It actually is nice to have anyway, the spreadsheet, because you can always go back and you kind of see it all in one, all the contacts you've built in one fell swoop. But sorry, continue. So you basically were going through all this and what happened? So you started flying yourself out. How did you get the confidence to fly yourself out? Because when you had like 2 or 3 coffee meetings or one?
Yeah, so I think whenever I have maybe like 2 or 3 people that would confirm a meeting or like would be willing to grab coffee with me in the city, I would just book a flight there. And when I'm actually in the city, after talking with those 3 people that have been able to confirm, I would reach out to other folks that I have talked to, have whatever sort of connections with in the city, and literally just, I would just be in the lobby of the bank that I want to work for and just say, hey, like I'm literally in the bank lobby right now. Would you just spend 5 minutes with me to talk, just whatever. I just want to meet you and, just grab coffee with you.
And this was in San Francisco and New York? Is that the 2 cities?
San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York. Yeah.
And you were able to build up enough connections there where you had anywhere between 3 to 10 people to meet. So would you like book a return trip already, or would you leave it open-ended and just, would you do like a round trip, like for 2 days in the middle of the week?
Yeah, round trip. So
how many days? Like full 2 days, or and kind of?
So I would head out. Usually, I would head out.
Because like the reason I'm asking is because the logistics of this for like most college kids is super overwhelming. Of like, when do you actually book the trip? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry about my daughter.
No, totally fine.
She has something very
about the
important
podcast too. Yeah,
she has something very exciting to tell me, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry. So like, basically, it would be like the logistics of it. So you're in sophomore year, you're taking classes. Tell me how you get confident enough to be like, hey, now I'm ready to go to San Francisco.
Yeah. So I mean, San Francisco and Los Angeles would be easy for me because that's pretty close to my state.
Yeah.
So that would take me like an hour and a half, not even 2 hours to fly there. So it's not a big issue. So California, I would just fly out like Wednesday afternoon and then spend Thursday and Friday, Saturday and Sunday there, and then fly back Sunday night or something like that.
So you would do weekend as well, weekend meetings sometimes?
Yeah.
That's
so
smart,
I mean, only to the people I know somewhat decently well, because I try not to bother
smart because
people.
you get 2 weekdays for people who don't want to spend time with you on the weekend. You get 2 weekends for the people who don't want to do it during the work week. You probably get more of the young crowd on the weekends that don't have family.
Exactly,
you get the reverse for the That's really smart. Okay, so you did that for 3 different cities.
Yeah.
And tell me how those coffee chats went. Were there any that ended up being like the reason you feel like you got an internship?
Yeah, I think I talked to a fair amount of them, and I think how I eventually got an offer was I met with an alum in New York, and then he introduced me to another friend of his that he went to business school with in the city. And then I talked to that person on the phone as well. And then that person introduced me to another friend of his who was currently working at the bank that I ended up getting an offer at. So that was, the person that introduced me, pushed my resume through the door, was my fifth degree connection or something.
Fifth degree, yeah, crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, so and after I talked to that person, and like next week or so, I heard, I got an email from HR to say, hey, we want to schedule, a first round with you. And
it was just what, over the phone at this point?
Yeah, I was over the phone at that point.
Let's talk through that. So that were you super nervous? Was this like your first round interview, or did you have some others that bite as well?
I think it was like on paper was my first round interview because I interviewed with other banks before, and I kind of talked to a couple of associates at other banks, and they just fizzled out like the conversation. And they didn't really have like, I guess like they also came from a non-target school. Like myself, that's how I found them in the first place. I didn't have enough pull to pull me in.
Aren't there usually like super days though for like non-targets or something?
Yeah.
But didn't they help you get into that or no?
So they at least from what I heard, they couldn't, because you need to have at least like a VP or both kind of, voucher to pull your non-target resume through the door. And then, so I did have a couple kind of non-official interviews with other banks, but that was, that was the I guess the first official interview.
Either way, it was good practice, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And so as you kind of started doing some more of these trips and these calls and these kind of informal interviews, did you start kind of repping and practicing the technical questions and getting ready, or like what was your thought process kind of leading up into the summer internship? Kind of, you had that first round interview, and then like, were you already ready?
Yeah, I think so, because I had my first round back in March of that spring.
Yeah.
Of my sophomore year, and by that time I had been prepping continuously since my freshman summer internship.
People are going to be listen to this and stress out just hearing how much work you put in. No, it's good. It's good because no, it's actually good because a lot of people say they want it and they come in, they think, but then to hear all the steps that you took to kind of land it is really kind of eye-opening. So you're basically kind of going through all of this. You do that. You obviously pass that first phone interview, and then what happens? They fly you out for a super day.
Yeah, so they flew me out to, like you said, a non-target super day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I spent a day interviewing there. Yes. So the first round was all technical questions.
Mm-hmm.
So did a paper LBO and then a paper acquisition illusion model. Mm-hmm. Passed with that round. So my bank, the bank did a pretty interesting way of interviewing people. They would fill us out, had a first round technical interview, mm-hmm. and then they would ask you to like stick around, right? If you pass that technical round, they would invite you back for 2 more rounds of, I guess, behavioral /
so we're like half the kids cut.
Yeah. They had no idea what was going on, right? So a bunch of us would be sitting in a coffee shop right next to the bank, just like.
And you didn't know who was cut or whatever.
Yeah, we didn't know what was going on. There was no process
like
in place.
Squid Games kind of thing.
Yeah. So like whenever somebody's phone popped up, like everybody started looking nervous because like, oh, is that person getting called back into the bank for another round interview, or just
right.
Their parents are calling, whatever is going on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got called back in.
Back in.
And then was it more behavioral, the second and third round kind of thing?
Yeah, more behavioral, less like paper LBO stuff, more like my understanding of the market and like stocks and mm-hmm. things like that. What's going on in the news, things like that, and why I want to do investment banking. And at that point, I knew I had my answers down to the teeth, right? So
yeah.
So those last 2 rounds were somewhat easier for me to handle. Yeah.
Did you feel like your delivery was good?
I think so. I think
you were genuinely like very interested in it, so it wasn't hard to convey.
Yeah, well, because like I had to really find my way into investment banking and like find my own resources and study materials and study interviews. So it was not just like a couple walk down to the career services center and apply and submit a resume.
You could have applied for, if you needed the financial aid, we have a financial aid program for all those people who don't know for our IB interview course. A little plug there.
No, I wish, I knew about that when I was like interviewing, because I had to like really take, senior guys and the junior guys in my, from my school out for lunch, just to like, so they can send me their like LBO resources and materials and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Well, so you're kind of getting through, and then, so tell me about like the final round. There's like, okay, leave, or like, what do they say? Okay, thanks. Bye. You can go home now.
Yeah. So they told me, yeah.
Did they tell you right away you got it?
No. So did the 2 rounds, and then they said, oh, it's nice to meet you. We'll be in touch. And then, I was on my way to the airport to fly back home. And then, right when I just entered the subway, they called me and said, hey man, like, we like you. We want to give you an offer for some internship.
Awesome. And so you said yes right away?
Yeah. So I said, okay, that's pretty cool. I still want to talk to my parents. Just, can you give me like a couple of days or so? And, obviously coming from a non-target school, they, you don't have a lot of leverage. So they just say, oh, okay, can you, that was, I got the offer on a Friday.
Yeah.
And they told me to get back to them on Tuesday and Wednesday. So like,
okay. That's actually, wow. I would have said like, yes, I take it. Right. Is it because the location, like just being far away from, was that the concern?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I still thought I could do a little bit better. I like the bank, but obviously, it's not like, I thought maybe, okay.
You had read too much Wall Street Oasis and thought, hey, I have to get Elite Boutique or Bulge Bracket Bank.
Yeah. So I just definitely going for the Bulge Bracket there. And, and then I started.
At that point, you didn't have time, right? And so,
yeah. And I talked to my mentors as well, and they said, okay, it's a good place to go to. Mm-hmm. It's pretty up and coming. And, it's in New York City. It's pretty easy to network with people. So that's what a lot of mentors told me. So I decided to take the offer.
Great. So you take it, you kind of get through. So what are you doing your sophomore? Is this for a sophomore? So what are you doing sophomore summer then?
Yeah. So I'm going, so I got the,
you got the junior summer offer.
That's right. Before
you had your sophomore summer. Okay.
So before I went to my sophomore internship. So I got my sophomore internship in January of that year. And I got, the junior internship in April of that year.
Yeah. And so, it's so weird. But okay, so tell me about the sophomore summer around, like, what did you do? Was it just on campus recruiting? What was that?
So that was, so I thought that in order to position myself as a strong candidate, I want to have also another great brand name on the resume. And obviously, the company I ended up interning at, they, Fortune 500, Fortune 5 even company. So, a lot of people knows about the company, and I thought I wanted to like work in their corp dev team as well, just to be able to understand like what it looks like, from the investment banking customer's point of view. Mm-hmm. So, I got the offer for the summer internship for my sophomore year. And then, and then 2 months after that, I got the junior investment banking summer internship as well. So
you have to go do this other kind of internship in, whatever.
Corporate finance.
Corporate finance, which is totally different, but you kind of want to be in banking.
Yeah.
At this point. So was it tough to do all the work there, or was it okay?
I had a great time. I think, in hindsight, I'm glad I did it because, corporate finance, it's pretty chill.
Yeah.
Pretty 9 to 5, really. I mean, my
40-hour weeks.
Yeah. My boss would yell at me if he sees me in the office past like 5:30. Like, he would tell me to go home. Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, it was a new city as well. So I had a good time.
That's awesome. So you're kind of going through there. You come in junior year, you keeping your GPA, you already have your junior summer. So any prep kind of thinking towards, hey, after this junior summer internship, maybe I can lateral or leverage a full-time offer into another offer? Or were you just thinking, hey, I need to be prepped for this junior summer banking internship? What was the thought process going into it?
Yeah, I think for me, I just wanted to focus more on getting a return offer from a junior internship. And that was that. And then I thought, okay, maybe if I want to lateral to maybe a bigger bank, then I can decide after that. And then honestly, I spent a summer internship there, and I really like the people I got to work with. It's pretty strong M&A focused platform.
Yep.
And I get all the interns got to work as generalists as well.
Yeah.
So I got to work with like many different industries. So I really like that platform.
You don't get pigeonholed. Yeah,
I like that a lot. Yeah.
What would you say in terms of like pitching? Were you pitching like half the time, 20% of the time?
Oh, maybe like 65% of the time as interns.
As interns. Yeah. Okay. So then you're kind of getting through the summer. What was it like? 70-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks? What was it?
Oh, it was pretty bad. That summer was pretty rough. So like, I would say 75, 80 hours a week on average.
Yeah.
And it was everything that I heard about and more, right? So
but then when you live it, it's different, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like I had a great time just to like, I kept hearing about the word investment banking and investment bankers and all that stuff. And that's somewhere I was there, right? Just like being able to see everything that I worked so much for. So that was really cool.
And so what was your thought as you went through the summer thinking, oh man, this is a crazy work hours? Were you thinking, oh, I can't do this? Or are you thinking I can do this?
I thought I could definitely do that. I think
do it.
Yeah.
And so halfway through the summer, did they like give you a review, or how did you know you were going to get an offer?
Yeah. So they did a midterm, halfway through the summer review, and there was nothing that raised the red flag. So they were just, okay, yeah, we like you, keep doing the good work. And then, I heard about me getting a return offer maybe a week in advance. So,
And so you get the return offer. Do you accept on the spot at this point? Or what do you think?
No, myself.
So tell me about this. Tell me about this.
So I told him, I would need, another, couple of days or so to decide. And then at that point, I thought, okay, maybe I'll try to see if I can go directly to the buy side. And at that point I thought that if I want to do investment banking, I'll go back to this firm because I really like the people I got to work with. But if not investment banking, now I'll try my best to go straight to the buy side.
And you're talking private equity specifically.
Private equity straight up trying to get a private equity
not hedge fund or anything like that.
Yeah, because I didn't know what hedge fund was at the time. Or venture capital or anything like that. Just like, I was still learning along the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're still an intern. So, okay. So you're kind of coming through here. And so, I mean, I'm looking at the timing. This was summer of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the timing, you probably, there weren't that many analyst programs, private equity.
Yeah, there was not a lot.
Well, there were some, but it was starting to grow. But so tell me about how you even went about that.
So I just reached out to a couple of people that I had known during my networking period. And it just really didn't work out because they had so few spots.
Mm-hmm.
And, it would be almost impossible to get me in for even just an interview because, they would be looking at, the Wharton kids and the Harvard and MIT kids or Stanford kids. So, that dream lived for about, a week and a half or so. And I just like, okay, I'll go back and, do investment banking.
Accept your offer.
Yeah.
Okay. But you kind of already knew you were interested in the buy side kind of early on.
Yeah.
Specifically, was there a certain reason for that? Did you feel like, hey, it's just kind of the path, this is the most kind of lucrative or kind of path that's most well worn? What was your thought process on that?
Yeah, I think I'd always been thinking about becoming an investor or working as an investor one day. I think, when I was in college, I worked for a student's investment fund.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really enjoyed that work. And just be able to like look into different companies and learn about the business models and like put your skin in the game and, and see if that pays out in, a couple of years versus, investment banking is more like salesy. You finish a project, you might not hear about the company, ever again. Yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of starting, you finish up school. I'm sure it felt good to have the offer locked up in your senior year. It's probably a fun year.
Yep.
And then kind of as you're prepping, you graduate, as you're prepping for your analyst stint, Anything you do beforehand? Any advice to listeners besides vacation and sleep?
To get ready for investment banking?
Yeah.
I think just really talk to people who are working in the industry and understand clearly the pros and the cons of the job, what you want to get out of it and what you're willing to trade for it. I think, a lot of people, I think, in my class that started with me in investment banking, we started with, I think, 59 or 60 people in our class.
60? You said 60?
Yeah, 60 people in my class in investment banking. And then 7 to 8 months in, we lost like 15 or 16 of them.
Wow.
So a good amount of people quit. And obviously COVID had something to do with that too. But, it's not, it's not like it's a 9-to-5 job, obviously. And you got to understand, like, there's going to be tough times and demanding hours, but what you get back in return is like, obviously your resume looks good and you get paid well and you get to learn a lot and work with a lot of interesting people and interesting projects. So I think that would be my biggest advice to anyone who's considering investment banking or who's going to investment banking is, it's not a rosy walk at all. I mean, it was a lot of like stressful time when I was in investment banking, and a lot of people that was not pleasant at all to work with. But it's only at least maybe like a 2-year program. So maybe look.
So when did you start kind of, private equity recruiting was happening earlier and earlier and earlier, and then COVID hit and then suddenly it was like delayed. So tell me a little bit about how you kind of went into the 2020 or 2021 private equity recruiting, because I know you have an offer at a upper middle market fund, right? So just tell me a little bit about your thought process there in terms of like how you positioned yourself coming from not a bulge bracket or name brand, as big a name brand, still a good name, not a name brand kind of place.
Yeah. I think I definitely.
Did you just lean on your networking prowess again?
Yeah, I think so. I think I talk to them a lot. I'm still in touch with, like I said, a majority of them that I talk to. And that's kind of how I learned about what this time private equity is on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
And I definitely got lucky in terms of, the recruiting timeline got pushed back. So for my year, it got pushed back by a year, right? So I think it would have been a totally different story if it has started just, right after I finished my training or something.
Yeah.
And I still think it's pretty ridiculous to ask people to sign a job that's not going to start 2 years after.
Yeah.
But, I think I got lucky there. And as I started spending more time in investment banking, I thought, okay, this is the kind of industry I want to go to. Not generalist buyout. I want something more specialized. And just having more deals experience under my resume as well really helped with my story and what I want to do and why I want to work in investment banking. I think the headhunters, I think they like that. They vouched for me, and that's how I got a couple pretty good interviews and eventually converted one. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. So was it during the crazed weekend?
Yes. Yeah. 9/11 is when it started.
Yeah. Let's talk about that crazed weekend and what it looked like and how you dealt with the stress and how basically you just got called on a Friday, or what happened?
Yeah. So I think I had started putting in more hours to prep for modeling test. During my first year in banking. So every time I have like some downtime, I would spend like 2 or 3 hours just doing an LBO model from a sim or something. I would try to do that maybe at least once a week or twice a week if it's not too busy. So by the time that, I think like by the end of my first year summer, I started hearing about, okay, like firms might want to start interviewing post Labor Day because that would seem like a perfect timing for them. And by that time I was technically ready for the interview. I just didn't know yet what type of firm I want to go for, what type of industry I want to go for. And then so
you were in touch with recruiters at this point.
Yeah, so they reached out end of summer and just introducing themselves. And I think not a lot of headhunters knew, or nobody knew when it's going to kick off. And then,
I was shocked that actually COVID actually delayed things. I thought they would use it as an opportunity to go early again.
Yeah. So what I did actually was a lot of smaller private equity firms. They actually started interviewing during my first year in investment banking. So like October or even November of my first year. So 6 months before the official process kicked off.
Yeah.
So I went on, I applied to all the private equity firms that I have no intention to go work for, just to prep.
Yeah.
So I would interview with like a lot of them and do a lot of like practice, but actually real interviews.
Yeah.
And that's how I got a lot of prep out and just got my story.
Did you get any offers from those?
I didn't. So I went to like 2 super days.
Yeah. That's great practice.
Like all virtual. But I didn't really convert. That's really helped me get ready for sure.
That's great. Why don't you think you converted then? You just didn't have the reps?
Yeah, and then I wasn't really interested in the firm.
You were like super passionate about it?
I wasn't. Yeah, I mean, there would be place in some city that I've never been to, or I have nobody there, and they place a heavy premium on that as well because they're more boutique like PE firms, so they want people that have connections there.
Cool. So you're getting some reps, doing LBO modeling testing, all that stuff. So then the weekend happens is weekend of 9/11, right? You said?
That's right. Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah. So I think it was a Saturday, 9/11. I think Thoma Bravo kicked out the process. And I didn't get an interview from them, but I just heard from my colleagues at the bank. And then Sunday, a lot of headhunters started calling me and say, hey, like these firms want to interview you on a Monday. But at that point I said, I want to go into, different type of investing and not just generalist traditional buyout. I want to go into more like tech growthy, investing or private equity type. So I told them, okay, I'm not really interested in these firms.
You wanted to go more growth equity.
Yeah, I wanted to go more. I wanted to invest in companies that are growing. Not less focused on like financial engineering.
Yeah.
And so I turned out a couple of interviews, which was nerve-wracking at the time because you never know when they're gonna come up again.
Yeah.
And I started hearing, that my friends and colleagues having offers from upper middle market mega funds, and I was like, okay, I don't know if this is the right strategy to go about it.
Yeah.
But I just really just like thought to myself, I have no intention of going to like even the KKR of the world, the Blackstone of the world.
Why wouldn't you? Just for career trajectory, why wouldn't you? You just felt like you just didn't want to be in a big fund, like or what was your thought process?
Yeah, for me, it's more like the strategy that they focus on. I would go to like the KKR growth or Blackstone growth, but not like the traditional generalist buyout in New York. I had no intention to go into those funds.
Yeah.
So I passed. I passed on a lot of interviews, and then eventually I heard about the firm that I ended up getting an offer from, and it was like exactly what I'm looking for. So interview.
And so you interviewed with them, and you were ready. And given that it was more of a growth equity shop or fund that you were interviewing with, did you have to do an LBO?
Yeah, I did an LBO.
You did
model. Yeah.
So they still forced you to do that.
Yeah. They didn't. Yeah. So they give me a 2-page sim, and they just asked me to build an LBO model blank from Excel. So.
And how long did they give you to do that?
2.5 hours.
And how long did it take you?
Maybe 2 hours.
Okay. So did you have a nice sensitivity table in there, a nice pivot table for them and data? Yeah, showing the returns and all that.
All the good stuff.
Was it a go or a no go on the investment? Do you remember?
I recommend a go. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So you kind of got through all that. Tell me so this was like once the major recruiting had happened, or the fund that ended up reaching out to you, was it like later in the week, or what was the timeline?
Later in the week. Yeah. After all the general,
all the mega funds,
traditional mega funds, when they reached out a week after.
The week after, and they said, hey, we're doing our rounds. You said, yes, I want to do this one. So great. So then you started. what was your thought process? Like, I know you're thinking, okay, I don't want to do this mega fund, but what was your thought process of like, having that strategy of being more focused? Do you think the recruiters appreciated that, or do you think they were annoyed?
I think some recruiters were, I think I want to say they were annoyed because they just want to place me, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think, I can totally understand if they thought that, okay, I'm being too picky coming from my background and my school.
Yeah.
But, it didn't really matter much to me because, like that's just going to be me putting in the hours. So might as well, work, investing in something that I'm excited about.
Love it. Okay. Well, congratulations on the offer. That seemed like a very high risk, but high reward strategy because you're going to a fund that you're excited about.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, so just before we call the pod, any final words of wisdom? So you didn't finish out your full 2 years, correct?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that decision and the thought process of kind of ending a little bit early just to have some time. Or was the fund just saying, hey, you got to come now?
Yeah, they were open to me starting early. And I knew that because they just raised a pretty big new fund just recently.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like I said, I'd always wanted to eventually get to see what working as an investor like. So I thought, okay, so my class, the class that got hired the same time I did, my thought process is, they're not going to start for another 6 months, right? So they're going to start in the summer of 2022. If I get a head start ahead of them, if I start earlier, they'll have like a 6 or 7 months ahead of them.
Yeah.
And obviously, I thought a lot about it, but eventually decided, let's just do this.
You had to forego probably $100,000 bonus though.
Half of it. Yeah.
Half of it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's an interesting decision. I mean, interesting thought process of like, hey, jumping early. Did the bank, were there hard feelings on when you left, or was it okay?
Yeah. So my bank, my team, they were pretty numb to the pain of people leaving at that point.
Yeah.
Because, people were leaving left.
Out of the 60, how many are kind of still left there? 10.
So by the time that I left, there probably like maybe 40-ish people left.
Well, there's still a lot.
Not even that.
2/3.
Lower.
Maybe half.
Yeah, maybe half. Yeah. Because everybody got their first year bonus, and then they just dispersed. But yeah, no, a lot of people went to my side as well. So I think, I don't know what's up with investment banking, but there's just appearing to be a trend where people are starting or quitting earlier. I know a lot of people that started their PE job a year and a half in, and not even 2 years after investment banking.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, there's been a lot more of the trend of people just leaving after 1 year, get the bonus, and they're done.
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom, kind of looking back on your path and the amount of work you put in to get to where you are? And a lot of people would love to be in your seat, so I'd love to just, any final words before we call it.
Yeah, I think I would say I give this advice to kids who would now reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I think I would obviously you have to, when you want to get the kind of job like investment banking and private equity, you have to keep networking with people and ask them for referral and things like that. But at the end of the day, try to get to know them as a person as well. If you have, the time to do that, definitely try to do that. Because, I think, a lot of people reach out to all the folks on LinkedIn, it's pretty cookie cutter, trying to just talk to them on the phone once and like, hey, your bank is recruiting next week and you push for my resume. I would do that for them. I would push their resume for them, and a lot of people would, but that wouldn't build a sustainable, concrete relationships going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot more value to building genuine relationships, quality relationships with a smaller subset of people.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more to someone than just what they do. A lot more interesting stuff about someone than just what they do, right? So I try to ask them about like what they do for fun and things like that, and just try to build a genuine relationship with them, because I like I said before, I do appreciate people that spend the time talking with me on the phone when I was literally fresh off the boat, learning about finance and things like that. So
Yeah, I mean, that's why we always say the interest section of the resume is more important than people realize.
Yeah, totally agree.
Awesome. Well, Howie, thanks so much for taking the time and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time, Patrick.
And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, Patrick at wallstreetoasis.com. And until next time.